Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Friday, March 26th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been a very, very busy day. I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered today. I'm usually a panelist on each Friday. So we talked about the voter restriction bill that passed in the Georgia State Legislature and was signed into law on Thursday, March 25th. And, we talked about that a lot on yesterday's show. We also talked about the fact that a lawsuit has been filed. Black Voters Matter, the New Georgia Project, and Rise, Inc. are suing the state of Georgia over the voter suppression bill. So we'll discuss that as well today. We'll give you some more information about what's in the bill. Roland interviewed State Representative Renita Shannon today. I think it was Renita Shannon we interviewed today. And she gave some more insight into what is actually in the bill. Now, it could have been, State Representative Renita Shannon, it could have been much worse. It could have been much worse. There were some things that Republicans wanted in the bill that they did not put in this one. So, as I've been saying for 4 weeks now, that we have to engage in economic guerrilla warfare. It has to be a 50-state strategy. It has to be an all-out 50-state strategy to put economic pressure on certain corporations, especially those big corporations headquartered in Georgia: Coca-Cola, UPS, Southern Company, Delta Airlines, Home Depot, Aflac. Because this is blatant Jim Crow 2021. This is blatant Jim Crow 2021. So I'm going to share an excerpt of Roland Martin Unfiltered. A couple of them will share the interview that he did with Georgia State Representative Renita Shannon. We also know, as I reported yesterday, that State Representative Park Cannon was arrested for knocking on the door where Governor Brian Kemp was signing to the room where Governor Brian Kemp was signing the bill into law. According to the authorities there in Georgia, she was told to stop knocking on the door. She was told a number of times to stop knocking on the door, and she kept knocking, but she wanted to get inside to witness the signing of the bill, because she is a member of the Georgia State Legislature. She's been charged with 2 felonies. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then today is March 26th. Today is the anniversary of the day when Dr. King met Malcolm X. Malcolm X met Dr. King at the U.S. Senate debate for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The U.S. Senate debate for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. You've heard me talk about that before here on the show. So we'll deal a little bit with that history also as well. It's a very, very important piece of history, and I encourage people to read the speeches of Dr. King and Malcolm X, study Dr. King and Malcolm X, because both men are very much misunderstood. Both men are very much misunderstood. And if you read the book Martin, Malcolm in America, A Dream or a Nightmare by James H. Cone, he deals with how toward the end of both of their lives, their ideologies were converging. So a lot of people hear a lot of things that people say about Dr. King and Malcolm X. I could tell they really haven't done the research. Okay, so we'll deal with that on today's show. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Sign up for our email newsletter there as well. Shout out to shout out to Charlene Mitchell Rogers, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. She had me on the show a few weeks ago. All right. If you'd like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $sign TheAHN Show through Cash App, $sign TheAHN Show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHN Show, paypal.me/TheAHN Show. Okay. Or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. That helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air, keep broadcasting 6 days a week. 6 days a week. Okay. Shout out to John Ray as well. How you doing, John Ray? We're here 6 days a week. All right. So let's jump into this before we go to break. So as we knew this white backlash was coming, as I've been telling you, it was going to come even before the election. Georgia passes strict new limits on voting rights after former President Donald Trump, the traitor-in-chief, after his baseless and relentless claims of voter fraud in Georgia's elections. The Georgia state Republicans have passed sweeping new restrictions on voting rights. The new bill signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp on Thursday, March 25th. Now, keep in mind, Brian Kemp became governor because he stole an election from Stacey Abrams. Okay. And they're trying to put these draconian laws in place because they know Stacey Abrams is going to run for governor in 2022. And they're trying to stop her. Okay. They know she's going to run for governor in 2022. And then also Reverend Raphael Warnock, he has to run to defend his Senate seat again in 2022 because he's finishing out the last 2 years of a 6-year term. So Reverend Raphael Warnock of Georgia has to run for re-election again in 2022. Now, the new bill that was signed into law by the governor. Now, what's interesting is that there were 7 men in the room when Governor Brian Kemp signed the bill. All the men were white. That should tell you right there something's wrong. All the men in the room, everybody in the room was a man. 1, 2, they were all white. So that should tell you right there something wrong with the bill. But this new bill limits the locations of ballot drop boxes to inside election offices and early voting locations. It requires mail-in voters. It requires mail-in voters to use their driver's license or other documentation instead of signature verification. Also, it shortens the window to request absentee ballots. It standardizes hours for most early voting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It standardizes hours for most early voting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which can make it more difficult for residents to cast ballots after work. Okay, so you look at all of this, and then you start saying, well, wait a second, why is all this? What does this have to do with voter integrity? What does this have to do with trying to crack down, as you say, trying to crack down on voter fraud and all this stuff? Okay. why are you trying to limit it from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Okay, did you do a study and say that most fraud occurs after 5 p.m.? I mean, what is this really about? Okay, so we're going to we're coming up here on a break. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Are you getting ready for fall or winter? We have the solution for all seasonal clothing needs. Kemeticwear.com is the go-to online source for Kemetic African fashion and lifestyle products with a contemporary twist. We're committed to offering unique styles reflecting our African heritage. Kemeticwear.com is inspired by KemeticScribes.com to influence our people in learning and showing pride. Please visit our website at Kemeticwear.com.
We all know the cannabis industry is headed toward an uprise in the past decade. What happens when there is a brand that brings this uprise in a blow? The cannabis industry welcomes her uprise. Hustle her hemp. Delivering excellence with pride is her watchword, and how you choose to embrace it makes it a priority. From cultivating rich cannabis into exquisite and tastefully finished CBD products to delivery, Hustle Her Hemp leaves no stone unturned. Hustle Her Hemp's mission is to empower women of color by building business and creating legacies, uniting beauty, health, and business. We are a pure definition of how we want the CBD industry to become in the future. While we are redefining innovation, we bring the same energy to improving the quality of life. Hustle Her Hemp is the new uprise.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson, President and CEO of JCW Computer Consulting LLC, a technology implementation firm with over 20 years of satisfying customers. We offer a full spectrum of industry top-tier branded services. We are an authorized partner or reseller for Lenovo, Zoom, T-Mobile, Microsoft 365 and Surface tablets, Google Workspace, Acer, Asus, Samsung, PCmatic security software, and many more. Our online store features laptops, Chromebooks, computers, printers, accessories, and software. Businesses, take advantage of our free 1-hour Zoom tech consultation and know we offer top nationwide high-speed internet service providers, voice over IP, and cellular phone services. Home users, don't miss our current in-stock Chromebook inventory. Please visit us at jcwcc.com or call 215-879-6701.
Digital Dandelion's Technical Solutions works with businesses like yours to create an operations manual for your business, which is something many businesses don't have. According to AARP, more than 30% of small business owners are over 50 years old. Many business owners want to retire by selling their businesses or by passing their businesses on to their children. However, according to Forbes Investment Advisors, many retiring owners' attempts to sell their businesses for retirement fail. You cannot sell your business without a business manual. Your children also cannot inherit your business because there is no way to run it. Your business does not have to die when you leave. Their business Bible products will give you the tools you need for a thriving business that can make you money even after you retire. Are you looking at increasing your business's annual revenue? Digital Dandelions can help you make at least $100,000 in annual revenue and expand your business. Speak with them today about solidifying your business. Visit digitaldandelions.com today and get a free 30-minute consultation. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Friday, March 26, 2021. We are live. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Also, on 910 AM Superstation WFDF in Detroit, and their Facebook page, 910 AM Superstation on Facebook. All right. So share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. You're going to learn a lot. Okay. So right before the break, we were giving you an update on the Jim Crow voter restriction bill that was signed into law by Governor Brian Kemp in Georgia on Thursday, March 25th. You know, we talked about this on yesterday's show. We'll give you a breakdown of what's in the bill. And then I'm going to share, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered today, and we talked about it. I'm going to share an interview he did with Georgia State Representative Renita Shannon, who gave more insight into how harmful this bill is. Okay. Keep in mind, it was 7 white men in the room when the bill was being signed. Okay. That's all that was in the room. It was including Governor Brian Kemp, 7 white men in the room. And State Representative Park Cannon was outside knocking, trying to get inside, and she got arrested. She has been charged with 2 felonies. All right, so I want to look at this here. Let's look at some more what's in the bill. Okay, I want to flip over and look at this here from NBC Nightly News. All right. Georgia passes strict new limits on voting rights. Okay, so we said it limits the locations of ballot drop boxes to inside election offices and early voting locations. It requires mail-in voters to use their driver's license or other documentation instead of signature verification. It also shortens the window to request absentee ballots. It shortens the window to request absentee ballots. Okay. Now, a lot of these are sent through. Well, hopefully LaJoy will be fired from his position as the head of the Postal Service. So you can speed up the Postal Service by the time the next election comes around. Okay. And the primaries come around. Now, it standardizes hours for most early voting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., which could make it more difficult for residents to cast ballots after work. Okay, make it more difficult for residents to cast ballots after work. Now, I want people to understand these new voter restrictions don't just apply for presidential elections. They apply for any election in the state of Georgia. Okay, whether it's governor, city council, mayor, county prosecutor, any election in the state of Georgia, these new laws apply. Okay, now it also it allows state officials to take over county election boards, as we talked about yesterday, and that right there, that sounds like something straight out of Jim Crow. Okay, straight out of before 1965 Voting Rights Act, because Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is up for re-election in 2022. She's in Atlanta's in Fulton County. So if she gets reelected and the state board doesn't like the election results, or they say, oh, something's wrong, blah, 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 they can take over the county board and overturn the election results based upon this new law. Based upon this new law. And the reason why this law was able to go into effect, I would say 2 main reasons. One, because Shelby County versus Holder 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case, which gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which dealt with oversight. And with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, it stated that if the states that had a history of putting obstacles in the way of African Americans voting, people voting, like these former Confederate states, like Georgia, former Confederate state, if they wanted to make any changes to polling locations, times that polls are open, how many days you have early voting, how many weekends you have souls to the poll voting. If they want to make any changes, they had to get approval from a federal judge. That's the oversight. Well, U.S. Supreme Court of Shelby County versus Holder 2013, that was a backlash to 2012 when President Barack Obama was reelected, and there was voter suppression then, but 2012 had the highest percentage of African-American voter turnout at 66.6%. And also, 2012 was also the presidential election where the percentage of African-Americans voting, the turnout, the percentage of African-Americans voting was higher than the percentage of white people voting as well. Okay, as far as voter turnout, registered to vote and voter turnout. It scared the hell out of Republicans. They came back in the courts with Shelby County versus Holder. Because see, what a lot of people don't understand is the three branches of government. Okay, you have legislative, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate, legislative, executive, the president, but then the judicial branch of government, the courts. The judicial branch of government interprets law from the legislative branch of government. So the judicial branch of government can overrule and strike down a law written by the legislative branch of government and erase the law, or it can uphold the law. And it's based upon whether or not it's deemed as being constitutional, which means falling in line with the U.S. Constitution. So the judicial branch of government interprets law and can overrule the legislative branch of government. That's why who is on the Supreme Court is important. That's why who is at the federal court level, the federal courts, and then the Federal Court of Appeals. That's why that's important. That's why Donald Trump, the Heritage Foundation, the Fairless Society, and Moscow Mitch McConnell ran through as many ultra conservative, most of them not qualified, young white federal judges, and got them confirmed. 225 federal judges. Trump got confirmed something like 1/4 or maybe 1/3, but I think it was about 1/4 of the federal judges on the bench now. They'll be on the bench for the next 30, 40 years. That's a lifetime appointment. Republicans are playing the long game. Many of us are playing a political game of football and don't know the difference between the first down and the touchdown. Republicans are playing the long game. A federal judge is a lifetime appointment. President is only 4 years or at the most 8 years. Federal judge can be there for 30, 40 years, ruling on cases. Okay, so then you have, it makes it a crime to give food or drinks to voters waiting in line. These are just some of the draconian measures that are in this new bill. Now, Democrats are vehemently opposed to the new law. Stacey Abrams, founder of the voting rights group Fair Fight, called the law blatantly unconstitutional and nothing less than Jim Crow 2.0. Democratic State Representative Park Cannon was arrested after she knocked on Brian Kemp's door as he was signing the bill. Okay. She's been charged with 2 felonies. Mark Elias, an election lawyer who represents voting rights organizations, announced a lawsuit challenging the law, arguing it violates the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment of 1868, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Republican state legislatures have seized on Donald Trump's false lies about the stolen election, the stop the steal, all this nonsense. What they did was they spread lies. Okay, they spread lies and said the election was stolen, and then passed these laws to address a lie claiming that the election was stolen, to make it harder for African Americans and Hispanics and younger people and things like this to vote. Now, there are 43 state legislatures. Republicans are trying to pass through 253 bills. It's something like 39 bills they're trying to pass through here in the state legislature in Michigan. Now, Governor Gretchen Whitmer says she's going to veto those bills. But in states that you don't have if you have a Republican-dominated state legislature and you have a Republican governor, a lot of that stuff is going to be signed into law. If you have a Democratic governor, most of that stuff they'll veto, if not all of it. If Stacey Abrams was governor of Georgia, I guarantee you she would veto this bill, and it would not be law. And State Representative Park Cannon would not be facing two felony charges. If Stacey Abrams was governor of Georgia right now, even if the bill passed the state House of Representatives and the state Senate in Georgia, she would have vetoed that bill. She would say, get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Republican state legislators have seized on Trump's false voter fraud claims to push similar bills to restrict voting rights across the country. There's always a backlash when there are periods of time that African Americans make advancement. There's always a white backlash to this. This is the white backlash. Okay. So we're going to go to, let's see. Let's go to, I want to go to give an overview of this. Let's go to clip 3, Chiquita, from the readout, Joy Reid. Joy Reid on Georgia voting restrictions. It doesn't get much clearer who this law benefits and hurts. Okay. This is from Friday, March 26, 2021. Let's go to this clip, Chiquita.
So that's the backdrop under which Brian Kemp hastily and behind closed doors signed a law putting Georgia on an express train back to the Jim Crow era. Well, this was happening just outside those doors.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you said you give her one more time, like you're going to do something. Are you serious?
No, you are not. Represent.
He's not under arrest.
What? For what? Under arrest for what?
African-American State Representative Park Cannon was arrested and charged with a felony after knocking on the governor's door during the signing. It's just almost poetic how much the history this week rhymes, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't get much clearer who this law is designed to benefit and who it's designed to hurt. A descendant of enslaved Americans carted away by white policemen for daring to try to witness the voting rights of black and other non-white people being stripped away by a white governor whose previous claim to fame was purging tens of thousands of black voters straight off the rolls so that he could win. What Representative Cannon was demanding is nothing more than transparency. And transparency seems pretty important when it comes to what this new Georgia law actually does. To start, most egregiously, it makes it a crime in Georgia to give food and water to people waiting in line to vote. It also allows unlimited challenges to a voter's registration, requires ID to cast mail-in ballots, and bans third-party groups from sending absentee ballot applications. It also effectively allows the Republican-dominated legislature to take over local elections, stripping the Secretary of State as chair of the state election board, allowing the Republican General Assembly to appoint 3 out of the 5 voting members to the board. Basically, Republicans now totally control who gets elected in Georgia. The new law also cuts the number of ballot drop boxes, like, surprise, surprise, the one Brian Kemp himself used to vote last November. But make no mistake, despite signing this law behind closed doors with only his white male friends present, Kemp certainly wasn't trying to keep it a secret. He live streamed himself, making it illegal to do things like hand people water while they're standing in lines that have been known to get really, really long, like the ones we saw throughout Georgia's early voting period last fall when voters, mostly black and brown, waited in line for hours to vote, just the way Republicans like it. Yesterday, President Biden called efforts to suppress voting across the country sick, and today he blasted Georgia's attack on the right to vote.
It's an atrocity. The idea, if you want any indication that it has nothing to do with fairness, nothing to do with decency, they passed a law saying you can't provide water for people standing in line while they're waiting to vote. You don't need anything else to know that this is nothing but punitive, designed to keep people from voting. You can't provide water for people about to vote. Give me a break.
And it's not just punitive in that respect. Georgia's law also notably shortens the window for runoff elections, like the hard-fought ones that yielded victories in January by Democrats John Ossoff and the Reverend Raphael Warnock, which also happened to give Democrats control of the United States Senate. Just to be clear what this is about, namely power. Today, Senator Warnock, the first black senator in the state's history, dragged Senate Republicans state Republicans for using the law to promote the debunked big lie of election fraud.
So you're literally going to make public policy based on a lie, based on the feeling that some people have that things didn't turn out the way they should have turned out? Is that how we make public policy? We counted the votes not once, not twice, but 3 times. So what's the purpose of all of this? They don't like the outcome, and so this is democracy in reverse, where politicians have decided that instead of the voters picking their representatives, the representatives have a right to cherry pick their voters. It's un-American. It's anti-democratic. We have to resist it.
Okay. If it's more of a let it play, may have a little delay there. Okay, so that's from the readout, March 26, 2021. Okay, now I want to go to Roland Martin Unfiltered. So Roland spoke with, I was a panelist on the show today. Roland spoke with Georgia State Representative Renita Shannon to get more insight into what's in this Jim Crow 2.0 bill. Let's go to clip. We're going to go to clip 1, Shakita. Okay. And it should be queued up at the 10:14 mark. Let's go to this clip.
What happened there? The Representative Parker Cannon, she knocked on the door, charged her with 2 felonies as a result. Joining us right now, State Rep Renita Shannon of Decatur. Glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. This goes to show you how the governor utilizes his thug police, knocking on the door. Seriously, that results in an arrest?
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, because after what we saw on January 6th with Trump supporters storming and desecrating the D.C. Capitol, and these people were treated nicely by police. Some of them were even helped out of the Capitol. Certainly nobody was arrested on the spot. And Representative Cannon, who was just knocking on a door, which, by the way, is a part of our job. What many people don't understand is when bills are being signed, we are invited to watch those bill signings. So what she was doing was a part of her job, and state troopers treated her worse than they treated the folks in D.C. on January 6th.
Has there been any response from the governor's office, any at all?
No, not to my knowledge. The governor has not said a word, but again, I mean, this is par for the course in the Capitol. We have seen where Republicans have used state troopers to basically put their hands on black women legislators whenever they get the chance. If you remember, in 2018, Senator Nikema Williams was arrested just for standing with her constituents who were asking after the election where Stacey Abrams ran for governor. Constituents were in the Capitol saying count every vote, because they want to make sure that every vote was counted in that election. And she was arrested. So there's no shortage of state troopers being used to put their hands on black women legislators.
Is the response? Has the governor said anything about how his troopers conducted themselves?
I have not seen anything, but when you think about the fact that they are always used in a very political way, I don't expect the governor to say anything, because I'm sure he thinks that they were correct in what they did.
This, of course, this is turning to obviously a massive fight now. You now have some people calling for boycotts. National Black Justice Coalition, they actually called for PGA Tour players not to play in the Masters. Yesterday, Black Voters Matter, they were actually protesting outside at the airport there, trying to get Delta to stand up. And then there are others who are saying, no, first of all, folks, chill with the economic boycott. We're not there yet. Your response to those calls for economic boycott of Georgia because of this passage?
Well, I understand why people are calling for economic boycott, because at the end of the day, these corporations headquartered right here in Georgia cannot basically wrap their arms around Black Georgians during Black History Month and talk about our culture and promote our culture. But when our rights are under attack, they have nothing to say. And what we have been asking them to do is nothing. It's not like they've not done it before. When we have had other bills come through the legislature that would be bad for business, their voices have been really, really loud. So why do we have to drag them to stand up over voting rights. At the end of the day, we are a significant part of their revenue. And so if they can't stand up for us, then why would we stand up economically for them?
I was looking at a tweet from Eric Erickson, conservative Eric Erickson, who said, hey, you know what? This bill really doesn't do that much. Why are folks making a big deal out of this? And I said, well, if that's the case, why the hell do it?
Well, and also, I don't think that he's in any position to talk, considering that this bill is targeted at Black and brown voters. So Eric would not know what this bill actually does because none of it will likely have an effect on him. Case in point, the bill makes it so voting hours are now 9 to 5. Most people are at work between 9 to 5, in addition to the fact that we know that Black people are disproportionately represented in the number of low-income workers in this country and those without flexible schedules, which is why we were hit so hard by the COVID pandemic, because we didn't have jobs that we could just easily work from home and that were flexible. And so
hold tight 1 second. So for everybody who's listening, so voting hours, early voting hours are only 9 to 5. What were they were before?
All voting hours 9 to 5, unless you make an exception. Voting hours before this bill passed were generally 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We would always tell voters across the state, if you get in line by 7 p.m., you are able to vote.
So wait a minute, are you saying on election? Wait a minute, hold up. So even on election day, voting ends at 5 p.m.?
That is correct. The standard voting hours, you start at the baseline of 9 to 5 in this bill. Yes, those are the voting hours, and you have to jump through hurdles in order to make an exception to be able to vote outside of those times. Absolutely. The other thing it does is it restricts when you can drop off your absentee ballot. So this is also very restrictive. The bill says that you can't drop off your absentee ballot unless voting is during the early voting period, unless voting is going on, which means you can't drop off your absentee ballot except between the hours of 9 to 5.
Wait. So if I have an absentee ballot and I'm trying to drop it off before I go to work, I can't do it until 9 o'clock because
that is correct.
Because they're moving this BS about security. Mm-hmm. They're moving the drop boxes inside, correct?
That is correct.
So whereas now, the way it is, the drop boxes are out there at any time. You could just, 9 o'clock at night, you could drop your ballot off. They're only allowing you to drop off an absentee ballot during the same hours. Well, why the hell am I going to sit and do that? Might as well go in and vote.
Absolutely. And it's even worse than that. So you're correct. You can't even drop your absentee ballot off on your way home from work. The other thing that it makes a crime is to drop off somebody else's absentee ballot. So think about this. If you have an elderly parent who has decided to vote using absentee, because a lot of times it's hard for seniors to make their way out to the polls or really anywhere. So frequently they will use their adult children to, handle many of the things that just make it easier for them. So if you want to drop off your elderly parent's absentee ballot, that is a crime. This bill makes it a crime to drop off somebody else's absentee ballot.
Wait. So you're okay. If a folks are listening, that if I lived in Georgia and my mom or dad voted absentee, they physically have to carry their ballot and drop it off in the ballot box. I can't get their ballot that's signed and sealed and drop it off.
That is correct. They would have the choice of either dropping it off themselves in the drop box or mailing it in. And we all know that USPS is not running in the ways that it used to run. So it's very risky to put anything in the mail nowadays and expect it to be on time delivered wherever you want it to go. That's correct. That's now a crime. Mm-hmm.
And when you say a crime, explain that.
In the bill, it's listed as a crime. And there are quite a few areas where it's a felony crime. Some of these things, for example, watching people vote is now a crime. There are several things in the bill that are a crime now. Some of them misdemeanor, some of them felonies. So if I drop it off, then you drop it off. So therefore, we can prosecute you for dropping off your parents' absentee ballot. Absolutely, because it is not your absentee ballot. Yes.
what else? Because see, I love all these conservatives, especially these black conservatives, who keep saying, "Hey, what's the big deal with a voter ID?" This bill is not about voter ID. This bill was a 2-page bill that then blew up to a 100-page bill. Correct?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There are many things in this bill that are really just meant to target black and brown voters and to just make it harder to vote for anybody. This bill even goes after the judges. It says in the bill, you know how sometimes a poll might not open on time because maybe they're having an issue with the machines? This bill now says that judges have to use clear and convincing evidence to even be able to extend poll hours. So it's even going after the discretion of judges. We have had no problem with judges using their discretion to say that a polling location may need to be open later because of logistical issues that may have happened earlier in the day. This bill now even makes judges have to jump through more hurdles to show the exact reason why they would allow a poll to stay open later. It reduces early voting times. I mean, there are so many things in this bill, in addition to what you're hearing on national media, which is making it a crime to give folks water and snacks near the polling location. Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I go back to Eric's tweet. This really doesn't do much when we talk about, but it also does, which is quite nefarious. The state legislatures can essentially overturn a county elections board, and Republicans also are always about local control. This bill also restricts county election boards from making their own decisions about voting in their own counties, correct?
Absolutely. There's a state takeover mechanism, and in addition to that, we have seen countless bills get passed this session, which hadn't even been covered by media, but we've seen countless bills to gut current Board of Elections in counties where have a history of racial discrimination against black voters. We are seeing boards be gutted to say, listen, if you're on the Board of Election today, that whole board is being wiped clean and new people will be seated based on political appointments for these boards. So they're doing a lot of things to make sure that at the end of the day, when Trump was looking for those 11,000, 12,000 votes, he tried to pressure the Secretary of State to find him. This bill will give many avenues the next time the Secretary of State gets pressured by someone to overturn an election.
And I heard one of these white Republicans actually say, we're in charge of the election. We get to determine how everything goes.
I didn't hear that comment, but it would not surprise me. As I've said before, what you are seeing happen across the country is that Republicans elected a committed white supremacist to the president of the United States. And when Trump failed to win re-election, they, since that point, have made it their business to go and try to invalidate all of the votes of black and brown voters because they largely turned out and powered the win that we have with Joe Biden and the U.S. Senate seat. They are making it their business to target black and brown voters. That's just what it is.
All right, State Representative Renita Shannon, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So pause it right there, Shakita. Okay, so excellent interview. That's from March 26, 2021. Roland Martin Unfiltered, speaking with Georgia State Representative Renita Shannon. I was on the panel for today's show. We're going to go to clip 2, Shakita. Should be queued up at the 30:52. He came to me. Here's what I said. Let's go to this clip. Let's go to clip 2.
Michael, we had Reverend Wendell Andy on yesterday, head of Detroit NAACP. Same thing is happening in Michigan. 39 bills have already been introduced there. Again, Republicans, where they control the state legislature, they want to move forward on this. This is absolutely the agenda of the entire National Republican Party. I don't want to hear a single one of these trifling-ass black conservatives who defend this try to say, oh, no. I mean, every time Malik Abdul was on here, oh, no, you're wrong, Roland. That's not the policy of the Republican Party. Yes, it is. It's on full display right now.
Well, Roland, this is what I've been warning people about going back to the 2016 presidential election, going back to the 2012 presidential election. We saw the backlash of the 2012 presidential election when a record number of African Americans, record percentage of African Americans came out and voted. 66.6% of African Americans registered to vote, came out and voted, re-elected President Barack Obama. The backlash was called Shelby County versus Holder, 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case that gutted the Voting Rights Act, the pre-clearance. Because the pre-clearance was gutted in Shelby County versus Holder, this allowed this to take place in Georgia last night. Because otherwise, they would have had to go to a federal judge to get this approved. But because of Shelby County versus Holder, this allowed this to take place last night. So, see, we don't understand law. In politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and we don't understand how to defend ourselves against these threats. This is the white backlash that always comes after periods of time of advancement of African Americans. If you go back to when Stacey Abrams ran in 2018 in Georgia for governor, you had some black people saying they weren't voting for her because she didn't have a black agenda. But your dumb ass let somebody who has an anti-black agenda become governor, and he signed this law. I guarantee you, if Stacey Abrams had become governor, she would have vetoed the bill. See, we're playing a game of political football and don't know the difference between a first down and a touchdown and wonder why we don't have any points on the board. So this is all-out war. As I said 4 weeks ago on your show, we have to engage in all-out economic guerrilla warfare. I'm totally with Latasha and Cliff Albright, but it's in the courts. They're gonna file lawsuits in the courts. You have to do that. But it's not just in the courts to fight. It's in the streets, and it's nationwide economic boycotts on these few corporations, okay? And I hope you bring up how many of these same corporations spoke out with force and threatened economic withdrawal from the state of Indiana and the state of North Carolina when you had the transgender bathroom bills in 2015 and 2016. But now many of these same corporations, many of them have laryngitis now. I hope we talk about that as well.
Well, and that is the case. Robert,
pause it right there, Shakita.
You're in Georgia.
Pause it right there. So a lot of these corporations came out and supported LGBT in 2015, 2016 with the transgender bathroom bill. You spoke up for LGBT, but you have laryngitis when it comes to BLACK. Now, you came out and spoke and put these statements out and donated money when the protests were taking place in June and July of 2020 behind George Floyd. But a lot of these same corporations are missing in action now, putting out lukewarm statements. Because if you go, and we'll talk about this some more on Sunday show. If you go, I followed this day after day in 2015 with the Indiana bathroom bill, and I followed it day after day in 2016 with the transgender bathroom bill in North Carolina. The transgender bathroom bill passed the state legislature in Indiana. It was signed into law by the governor of Indiana. At the time, the governor of Indiana was Mike Pence, who then became vice president of the United States. Corporations came out in force. They were threatening to cancel conferences, all different types of things like this. The NCAA spoke out. Okay, they put pressure on the state legislature. Within 1 week, I want everybody to pay attention to this. Within 1 week, the Indiana state legislature changed the law. Then Mike Pence had to come back out and do a press conference, and he signed a new law in the law, which changed the transgender bathroom bill because of economic force from white corporations. So my thing is, well, wait a second. If you spoke out for LGBT, why aren't you speaking up for BLACK? We spend billions of dollars a year with these corporations. This is understanding leveraging our economics to enforce our politics. This is why people don't understand. After the election, that's not the end. That's the end of one process and the beginning of another one, to continue to push your agenda, push your policies, hold people accountable, and block and stop what people are trying to do to you. This deals with understanding political self-defense, because there's always people coming trying to take away what you've gained, trying to take you back, trying to reverse bills, trying to reverse laws. This is understanding this process and understanding how to, it's not only about what people can do for you. It's also understanding how to block and stop what people are trying to do to you. This is understanding political self-defense. All right, so we have those watching on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes, and I have to get out of here. We'll talk about this some Sunday. We'll deal with we're going to talk next. We'll talk a little bit about the day Dr. King met Malcolm X. We'll talk about that for a few minutes. We'll deal with that Sunday. Hey, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal. PayPal.me/the AHN Show. PayPal.me/the AHN Show. And at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also register for the online courses I teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That's at our website also. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! We'll talk to you Sunday night. Peace. Okay, stand by. We're going to shift gears here in just a second. There's another clip that I wanted to go to. This is Latasha Brown. This is from today. We're not going to sit back and be punished for using our civil rights. Black Voters Matter, co-founder on Georgia's new voting restrictions. Okay, we're going to go to this clip here next. Stand by.
Raphael Warnock is holding a news conference about this very topic. When that happens, when it starts, we'll take you there live. Jane Tim, NBC's Jane Tim's been following the story closely. And Latasha Brown is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, which again is part of this lawsuit against the new law. And Jane, again, as we wait to hear what Senator Warnock has to say, let's start with the new details in this new law. Walk us through, if you can, what it's going to mean for voters in the state of Georgia.
You know, for voters who do not have driver's license, mail voting just got a whole lot harder. Of course, you're going to have to copy identifying documents just to cast your ballot by mail, whereas previously your signature was your identification. You were verified that way. As you said, drop boxes saw other limits. They're now inside early voting locations, which are only open 9 to 5 for the most part. So that makes it even harder to get your ballot back to election officials. There's a shorter period to request your ballot. There's a whole lot of restrictions in here, and it makes it much easier for the state legislature to exert control over counties and how they run elections through a new state election board leadership structure. And as you said, snacks, pizza to the polls, it's going to be a lot harder there. It's totally illegal. You cannot send water or food to any of these voters who wait in the long lines in Georgia to vote. We saw 10-hour lines in June.
Yeah, what's the thinking on that part of the law specifically, Jane? I mean, what was the argument against food and water for people who are waiting in line to vote?
You know, the argument is that it's somehow electioneering, but for people who actually vote, this is just how it works. You know what I mean? When you have long lines, people coming through and making it easier for people to stay in those lines has been critical.
There was this moment that I'm sure both of you have seen where as Governor Kemp was signing this bill into law, Georgia state troopers arresting Democratic State Representative Park Cannon on Thursday. This is after she knocked on the governor's door while he was signing it in a closed-door ceremony. I want to play this exchange.
Yeah, you said you give her one more time, like you're going to do something. Are you serious?
No, you are not. Represent.
She's not under arrest.
For what? Under arrest for what? For trying to see something that our governor is doing?
Representative Cannon there has since been released, but her arrest really underscores a deeply emotional opposition to this law. Latasha, when you saw that transpire on Thursday night, what did you think?
You know, I was ashamed. I was ashamed of the state and where we have come as a nation, as a country. Here it is that the voters of Georgia are really being punished because they showed out in record numbers. But even if you look at just the image, you know, just the visual that you have the governor to have a closed door ceremony with all buttressed by all white men, and here's a black woman who is standing at the door, who is a duly elected official, asking to be in his office, and she gets arrested by state troopers. I mean, at the end of the day, that image alone says it all. There's 46% of the population of Atlanta were not represented in that room. That what you saw all white men signing legislation that would actually undermine the voting rights of the citizens of Georgia. And you saw a black woman actually standing at the door to hold them accountable to say, I have a right to be in there. And so I think that is indicative of what we're seeing happen in Georgia. It's indicative of the governor's behavior ever since he's been in office. And I think what he's done is accelerated the reason why people have to move him out of office, that he cannot get a second term.
The legal battle seems to have already started. You tweeted, Latasha, on Thursday, quote, "We are lawyered up. Let's go." And voting rights litigator Mark Elias, representing your organization, multiple other organizations as well, in this lawsuit that he's filed against the state. Can you talk a little bit about where this fight goes now?
Yes, we filed a lawsuit immediately. Black Voters Matter, along with the Georgia Project and Rise Inc., which is a student-led organization, we filed a lawsuit immediately because this is unconstitutional. When you're looking at what they proposed in this bill, we're not just going to sit back and be punished for using our civil rights and or let that be infringed. One of the most egregious pieces of this legislation is that it essentially gives the GOP authority to actually supersede the Board of Elections. So what would be the point of a Board of Elections that if the GOP, if they don't like, which in essence means if they don't like the results, they can just say, we don't like the results. We don't like what came out of this. And this is all predicated on the big lie. So it's deeply, deeply disappointing to be in the state of Georgia that prides itself on, particularly the city of Atlanta, of being the city that's too busy to hate, but is certainly not too busy to suppress the vote, and we're not going to give up. Can't stop, won't stop.
Jane, I want to come back to you for a moment here. We just talked about the argument against food and water in line for voters there in Georgia. Can you fact check some of the other portions of this bill, some of the justifications that were used?
I mean, this entire bill is essentially rooted in the false claim that there was somehow a big fraud in Georgia's election. Georgia's Republican officials have insisted that it was accurate and a secure result. But you saw Governor Brian Kemp yesterday aligning himself with the president's doubts, and not just doubts, let's say it, lies about a stolen election. You saw him saying, I shared his concern. There is no widespread fraud in American elections. This is not an issue.
Latasha, really quickly here. I mean, there continues to be this discussion over the filibuster and whether Democrats will finally do away with it to advance some voting rights legislation. Is this that time where organizations like yours and people like you start to put the screws to Democratic senators to do away with the filibuster?
Absolutely. There's no other way around this. What we're going to have is we're going to have to strengthen federal oversight on the elections. We've seen the bad actors that are really abusing their power in the circumstance. Even in the state of Georgia, there was a Target Smart just came out with a poll that shows 77% of the people in Georgia do not agree with this legislation. And so we're seeing people that are running rampant, that are literally abusing their powers. And the only way I think to stop that is we're going to have federal strengthening of the laws, and that's going to require the end of the filibuster. There's no way around.
Again, we are waiting on that news conference to start. Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock. When that happens, we will take you there live. Latasha Brown, thank you. NBC's Jane Tim, a big thanks to you as well.
Okay, so that's from Craig Melvin, MSNBC. I just I'm on Latasha Brown's Twitter page. And I saw that clip because I missed that interview earlier today. So I'm glad I went to her Twitter page. We're not going to sit back and be punished for using our civil rights. Black Voters Matter co-founder on Georgia's new voting restrictions. That's at msnbc.com. That's from Craig Melvin's show. We're going to post the link here on the thread of the broadcast. You can check that out. This is serious. I said before, Georgia is ground zero. Republicans are going to try this in other states also. Okay, so this is a fight. Republicans are trying to maintain power. They know that if it's made easier to vote, they know they're not going to win elections. They're not going to win a lot of statewide elections. They're going to lose in the Senate. They know they're not going to win a presidential election again. When I was on Roland Show today, one of my colleagues, co-panelist Robert, said that Republicans have not won the popular vote for president since 2004. That was George W. Bush. They haven't won the popular vote for president since 2004. People have to understand, and I've said this before, the Republican Party is a shrinking party. It's not a growing party. It's a shrinking party. White people have a negative birth rate in 26 states out of 50. We talked about this yesterday. And that's from the U.S. Census Bureau from June of 2018. Okay. And that's dealing with more deaths than births, I think it is. Yeah, more deaths than births. New York Times, June 2018, fewer births than deaths. Okay. And let's see, I think, what's the name of that one? Okay, looks like they have another one from fewer births and more deaths results in lowest U.S. growth rate. But there's one from New York Times. I talked about it yesterday. I'm going to pull this back up. But in 26 states out of 50, white people have a negative birth rate. Okay. And it's expected that by the year 2046, that white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. Now, it could come faster because I'm hearing that it has been moved up from 2045, 2046 to 2036. Okay. So they're trying to maintain raw, naked power by any means necessary. Read this article from the New York Times. Fewer births than deaths among whites in majority of U.S. states. This is from June 20th, 2018. This was a memo from the U.S. Census Bureau. The Census Bureau has projected that whites could drop below 50% of the population around 2045, a relatively slow-moving change that has been years in the making. But a new report this week found that whites are dying faster than they are being born in 26 states, up from 17 states just 2 years earlier. Okay. So 26 states out of 50, white people have a negative birth rate. And this was in 2018. And demographers say the shift may come even sooner. Demographers say the shift may come even sooner. So we really have to understand what's going on and understand how to fight back. All right, we'll talk about this some more. We'll talk about this some more on Sunday show. Okay, follow them on Twitter. Black Voters Matter on Twitter. And then their website, let me see, let's look at the website here. I think it's Black Voters Matter Fund. Black Voters Matter Fund.org or something like that. Let me see, we'll get the right address. Yeah, Black Voters Matter Fund.org is the website. Okay, so you can visit their website as well. All right, let's go quickly and talk about the day Dr. King met Malcolm X. March 26, 1964. March 26, 1964. I've talked about this a number of times before, so today's the anniversary of that. There was an article from the Washington Post that deals with this. Now, there's one from Zen Education Project I was looking at earlier today. And then there's a really good article from the Washington Post on the topic. So we'll talk about this for a few minutes. Then I have to get out of here. It's been a very busy day. So this took place at the U.S. Senate debate for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Malcolm had just officially separated from the Nation of Islam about 3 weeks prior, March 8th, 1964. He had not gone to Mecca yet. Okay. And let's see here. Let's pull this up from the Zen Education Project also. He had not gone to Mecca yet. He had not formed the Organization of Afro-American Unity yet either. When Malcolm leads the Nation of Islam, his ideology is continued to evolve. So if we look at this article here, Martin Luther King Jr. met Malcolm X just once. The photo still haunts us with what was lost. The photo still haunts us with what was lost. This is written by Deneen L. Brown. It's an excellent article. So one of the things they talk about here, when Malcolm leads the Nation of Islam, Malcolm joins the civil rights movement. When Malcolm met Dr. King, Malcolm told Dr. King, "I'm throwing myself into the heart of the civil rights struggle. I'm throwing myself into the heart of the civil rights struggle." Dr. King would later say, "He is very articulate, but I totally disagree with many of his political and philosophical views, at least insofar as I understand where he now stands." I encourage people to read the book Martin, Malcolm in America, A Dream or a Nightmare by James H. Cone. Martin, Malcolm and America, A Dream or a Nightmare by James H. Cone. Because James H. Cone goes through and he shows you passages of speeches from Dr. King and passages of speeches from Malcolm toward the end of their lives and shows how their ideologies are converging. They were both revolutionaries, both very, very much misunderstood. Digital Dandelion's Technical Solutions works with businesses like yours to create an operations manual for your business, which is something many businesses don't have. According to AARP, more than 30% of small business owners are over 50 years old. Many business owners want to retire by selling their businesses or by passing their businesses on to their children. However, according to Forbes Investment Advisors, many retiring owners' attempts to sell their businesses for retirement fail. You cannot sell your business without a business manual. Your children also cannot inherit your business because there is no way to run it. Your business does not have to die when you leave. Their business Bible products will give you the tools you need for a thriving business that can make you money even after you retire. Are you looking at increasing your business's annual revenue? Digital Dandelions can help you make at least $100,000 in annual revenue and expand your business. Speak with them today about solidifying your business. Visit digitaldandelions.com today and get a free 30-minute consultation.
We all know the cannabis industry is headed toward an uprise in the past decade. What happens when there is a brand that brings this uprise in a blow? The cannabis industry welcomes her uprise. Hustle her hemp. Delivering excellence with pride is her watchword, and how you choose to embrace it makes it a priority. From cultivating rich cannabis into exquisite and tastefully finished CBD products to delivery, Hustle Her Hemp leaves no stone unturned. Hustle Her Hemp's mission is to empower women of color by building business and creating legacies, uniting beauty, health, and business. We are a pure definition of how we want the CBD industry to become in the future. While we are redefining innovation, we bring the same energy to improving the quality of life. Hustle Her Hemp is the new uprise.
Black Bees products are a collection of natural, organic, personal care products with an appreciation of nature and bees. Our philosophy is without bees, we have nothing. We are honoring our Nile Valley ancestors who understood the importance of bees. Black Bees created a high-quality, natural, organic personal care line that would be affordable to everyone. We hope you try and enjoy our Black Bees products line and come back and visit us at blackbeesproducts.com.
With blackbusinesstee.com, the messages are clear and meaningful. Keep your business in the black and out of the red. Mind your black business, know your numbers, and plan strategically. Black Business Boss, lead your industry. Support black business, encourage, patronize, and uplift one another. BlackBusinessTee.com currently has products sold in Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles, with proceeds returned to the black community. They have a wide selection of hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, hats, sweatshirts that support black-owned businesses. Visit the website blackbusinesstee.com. That's blackbusinesstee.com. We go back here to the article quickly here. Now, one of the things Malcolm was doing, even while he was in the Nation of Islam, is Malcolm was calling for a unification of the civil rights leaders and their followers. So they're often presented as adversaries, but they were more similar than they are presented. If we look at something here, so 8 months before their brief meeting on Capitol Hill, Malcolm sent a letter to Dr. King requesting a meeting with Dr. King. The letter was dated July 31st, 1963. The return address was Muhammad's Mosque, number 7, 113 Lenox Avenue, New York, 26, New York. So this is when Malcolm is still in the Nation of Islam. This is the month before the March on Washington. Malcolm sends a letter to the leading civil rights leaders requesting a meeting with them. And Malcolm said we have to find a common solution to a common problem posed by a common enemy. Malcolm opened the letter and said the present racial crisis in this country carries within it powerful destructive ingredients that may soon erupt into an uncontrollable explosion. The seriousness of this situation demands that immediate steps must be taken to solve this crucial problem by those who have genuine concern before the racial powder keg explodes. A united front involving all Negro factions, elements, and their leaders is absolutely necessary. A united front involving all factions, elements, and their leaders is absolutely necessary. Malcolm X warned that a racial explosion is more destructive than a nuclear explosion, citing a recent meeting between then President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev. Malcolm said, despite their tremendous ideological differences, it is disgraceful for Negro leaders not to be able to submerge our minor differences in order to seek a common solution to a common problem posed by a common enemy. Malcolm X was calling for a unification of the civil rights leaders and their followers, and basically all factions of African Americans and their leaders. He's calling for a unification of them while he's still in the Nation of Islam. And he's saying that we have to find a common solution to a common problem posed by a common enemy. So Malcolm X invited Dr. King to the rally that was going to take place in August 1963 in Harlem. he invited Dr. King to the rally to analyze the race problem and a solution. But he didn't just invite Dr. King. He invited the leading civil rights leaders at the time. A. Philip Randolph, John Lewis, the Big Six Negro leaders. Malcolm promised to moderate the meeting and guarantee courtesy for each speaker. He requested that if Dr. King could not attend, that he would send a representative, closing the letter with an endearment, your brother Malcolm X. Dr. King, this is 1963, this is August, because he sent the letter July 31st, so this is August 63. Dr. King declined the invitation and did not send a representative, according to the book Malcolm and the Cross, The Nation of Islam, Malcolm X and Christianity, by Louis A. DeCaro Jr. We know on August 28th, 1963, the March on Washington took place. More than 250,000 people came out. And even though, I mean, his speech wasn't called I Have a Dream then, it was actually called a canceled check. It was originally called Normalcy Never Again. Then it was called a canceled check. It wasn't called I Have a Dream then. And the speech wasn't even about a dream, because the phrase I have a dream didn't even appear in any of the original drafts of the speech. And he shifts and starts talking about the dream after Mahalia Jackson screams out, "Tell them about the dream, Martin, tell them about the dream." Because in the speech, Dr. King is talking about fighting against police brutality, fighting against segregation, racism, and he's talking about holding America accountable for a promissory note that we were given 100 years prior in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation. And then when we take the promissory note to the bank, it's marked insufficient funds. He's calling America out on America's hypocrisy, and he's talking about holding America accountable. Okay, he's talking about voter suppression. All different. He goes through and lists these different grievances in the speech. Now on the television, the TV on the television, they'll show like the last 2 minutes of the speech, or they'll focus on the dream portion. The speech was not about a dream. It's about holding America accountable for America's hypocrisy and holding America accountable for a promise we were given 100 years prior in 1863. The speech was not about a dream. It's been shifted, and it's misdirection to have us focused on the dream. The speech is about dismantling he's talking about dismantling white supremacy. The dream portion, the beloved community, that comes after you dismantle white supremacy and racism. What happens is the focus of the speech is shifted away from holding America accountable, dismantling white supremacy and racism, is shifted to black boys and girls holding hands with white boys and girls. That's not what the speech is about. That's why you have to read it. You can, I think at the King Institute at Stanford University online, King Institute, Stanford University, I think they have it there. You have to read the speech, because you read it, you're just like, wait a second, this sounds different when they play it on the TV. Okay, so then we know that Malcolm referred to the March on Washington as the farce on Washington. We know Malcolm's going to set up the Organization for Afro-American Unity. He's after President Kennedy's assassinated November 22nd, 1963. We know Malcolm is going to be silenced by the Nation of Islam. Eventually he's going to leave. He's going to be suspended. He's eventually going to leave the nation. Now, what's interesting is that when so Malcolm goes he goes down to Selma. He goes down to Selma, Alabama. The following year in 65, Malcolm X went to Selma, Alabama, where he had a cordial meeting with Coretta Scott King and other civil rights leaders. Okay, see, this is not talked about a lot. They just, the way, especially in white controlled media, the way they position them is just as adversaries. And they really weren't adversaries. And they just position them as, okay, you either with Malcolm or Dr. King, blah, blah, blah. This is that divide and conquer nonsense. The following year, Malcolm X went to Selma, Alabama. This is 1965, where he had a cordial meeting with Coretta Scott King and other civil rights leaders. Dr. King was in jail at the time, but recalled later. He said he spoke at length to my wife, Coretta, about his personal struggles, and he expressed an interest in working more closely with the nonviolent movement. See, I'm trying to tell you, Malcolm joins the civil rights movement when he leads the Nation of Islam. And when you go and read the Ballad of the Bullet, not listen to it, but read it. One of the themes of the Ballad of the Bullet, and Malcolm first delivers the speech, the Ballad of the Bullet, 3 days after he meets with Dr. King. He first delivers that speech March 29th, 1963. He first delivers that speech, or 64, I should say. He first delivers that speech March 29th, 1964, 3 days after he meets Dr. King at the U.S. Senate debate. Because in the speech, when you read it, he talks about being at the U.S. Senate debate, okay? One of the themes of the speech is injecting black nationalism into the civil rights movement. That's one of the themes of the speech, injecting black nationalism into the civil rights movement. Now, the speech was given before the Civil Rights Act passed. Okay, because and another theme of the speech is Malcolm was saying that the northern, more moderate Democrats should kick the southern segregationist Democrats out of the Democratic Party. So he's calling for the passing of the Civil Rights Act. It's going to be passed after he gives the speech. It's going to be passed it's going to be signed into law July 64. That's after the killing of Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney, June 21st, 1964, in Philadelphia, Mississippi. That's what's really going to push the Civil Rights Act over the top, okay? And for them to be able to get enough votes to get it passed. And the Southern segregationist Democrats are going to vote against it, but most of the Northern Democrats vote for the bill. Civil Rights Act of 64. With Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney being killed, this really pushed the bill over the top so they could get enough votes to get it passed in the Senate. All right, now, if we look at this here, 63, 64 in Washington, left through, this is 60. I think it's 64 when they're in Selma. This is 60, let me see. Only a few days after. No, 65, I was correct. It's 65 in Selma. Yep, 65 in Selma. And this is during the fight for the Voting Rights Act. Okay, this is during the fight for the Voting Rights Act. Dr. King said he spoke at length to my wife, Coretta, about his personal struggles and expressed an interest in working more closely with the nonviolent movement. He thought he could help more by attacking me than praising me. He thought he could help me more by attacking me than praising me. Because there was one clip, and I've been trying to find it. It's probably one of my documentaries on Malcolm or something. Malcolm says they would do best to give Dr. King what he's asking for. Because if they don't, another group is going to come along with a harsher alternative, and they're going to be forced to deal with them. And one of the things Malcolm did was he helped to push people towards Dr. King by his language and his vitriol, things like this. And it's really important to study Malcolm once he leaves the Nation of Islam, because his ideology is evolving so much. And read the speech that he delivered June 28th, 1964, announcing the formation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and the platform that he lays out. He lays out a platform for education. He lays out an economic platform. He he also lays out a political platform, which includes voter registration and voting strategically. This is June 28th, 1964. They have it at blackpass.org. Blackpass.org, they have about 6,000 pages of articles dealing with African history, African American history. This is why, if you listen to what I'm saying, I stress reading, because I see a whole lot of people putting a whole lot of BS out, talking about Malcolm, talking about Dr. King. I could tell they haven't read. They haven't researched this. I can listen to them and tell. This is why I've said before, with Malcolm's speeches as well as Dr. King's speeches, you have to read them. If you sit there just listen to them, you're going to miss a lot. You have to be able to compare the passages on page 4 of the speech, the passages on page 2 of the speech. You have to study this. This is Malcolm X's speech at the founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. This speech was delivered June 28th, 1964. This is at blackpass.org. I printed this out before. I think it's about 12 pages when I printed it. This is a deep speech. You can't sit here and listen to this. This is a speech where Malcolm said that we intend to bring this into existence by any means necessary. Okay, that's from this speech. See here. Yeah, right here. He said, "This is our aim. It's rough. We have to smooth it out some, but we're not trying to put something together that's smooth. We don't care how rough it is. We don't care how tough it is. We don't care how backward it may sound. In essence, it only means we want one thing. We declare our right on this earth to be a man, be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, and this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary." That's from this speech, June 28th, 1964, announcing the formation of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. And Dr. John Henrik Clark helped Malcolm to form the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Also, Maya Angelou helped him with it as well. Quiet as is kept, because when he's in Ghana in 64, he meets Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou comes back to the U.S. to work with Malcolm also. Maya Angelou worked with Dr. King, but she also worked with Malcolm X. All right, that's enough radio for today. Okay, so we have to get out of here. Hey, if you like this type of information, you want to support the African History Network, $ TheAHNShow through Cash App, $ TheAHNShow through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me /TheAHNShow. And at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So let's keep broadcasting 6 days a week. We're on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. And Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We rebroadcast a lot of these shows throughout the day on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. Let's see here. Also, you African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network also. Okay. All right. And visit workingwithjohnray.com. Workingwithjohnray.com. You hear more about that as well. All right, look, we had to get out of here. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you Sunday. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.
Soul Natural Beauty Products offers organic, plant-based skin and hair care products that will rejuvenate skin and naturally grow and thicken hair. Their whipped shea butter can heal or restore damaged skin cells to prevent hyperpigmentation and skin breakouts. All products are made with organic plant-based ingredients. Their maximum hair growth oil is fortified with organic herbal extracts and undeniably proves that Mother Nature knows best. It thickens, lengthens, softens, and conditions all types of hair. They even guarantee hair improvement within 90 days or a full refund. Their all-natural 24-hour deodorant leaves the body smelling fresh without sweating for up to 24 hours. It does not stain fabric, goes on smoothly, and has a refreshing lavender and frankincense aroma. It can be used by men, women, and even children. Place your order today at soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com. That's soulnaturalbeautyproducts.com, and follow them on Facebook at Soul Natural Beauty Products. Intuitive Design Clothing is an online accessory store that sells one-of-a-kind signature statement pieces for men and women. They also specialize in fashion consultations, closet organization, and decorating small spaces. Are you looking for a statement piece for a special affair, or would you like to add some select pieces to your ensemble of accessories? If you're looking for something different, definitely contact Kathy Norman, owner and CEO of Intuitive Design Clothing. Visit their website, intuitivedesignClothing.com. That's intuitivedesignClothing.com, and you can email her at info@intuitivedesignClothing.com. Intuitive Design Clothing is where every entrance is a grand entrance. Have you tasted the world famous No Frowny Brownie yet from the Pink Bakery? If not, what are you waiting for? They are vegan, gluten-free, and free of the big 8 allergens. While eating their No Frowny brownies, the fabulous Miss Tabitha Brown said they were very good. Very good. And you know, if she says that, they are. The Pink Bakery is the first black-owned, big 8 allergen-free baking mix company. Go to thepinkbakery.com, that's thepinkbakery.com, to order their No Frowny Brownie Mix today. Yaya Rule is a line of African print-inspired apparel catered to the black community. The pieces include t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, jackets, dresses, skirts, activewear, bags, and other accessories and home decor. This brand offers a revived way for men and women to wear their black pride and honor their African heritage anywhere at any time. This apparel line is for anyone, whether you are working in the corporate world, are an entrepreneur, or an artist. Their selection will allow you to casually let your pride shine or dress it up as wanted. It is for those who have already embraced African fabrics and for those who are just getting introduced to them. Reclaim and experience a part of our culture with rich and colorful African prints.